Alrighty, thanks for tuning in. Time to grab some creative fuel. My favourite is coffee. And just sit back and relax while I talk you through this pastel drawing, pastel painting. For this particular picture, I wanted to start with the background blocked in first. It's a soft garden jungle background, and I'm using shades of phthalo green and permanent green pan pastels. The paper that I'm painting on is pastel matte. Yeah, get rid of that coffee, it was in the way. And pastel matte is quite an amazing paper. There we go. Got most of the background blocked in. Just pan pastels to begin with. I honestly don't really like using pan pastels on pastel matte because it's quite grippy and can tear the little sponge applicators that you use to apply pan pastel. But anyway, this was just quite a small picture, so not too much of a big deal. I'm using ultramarine for my subject's hat, and I actually really enjoy starting off using pan pastels. You get a lot of energy using them. It's just like using palette knives, except if you could imagine using a palette knife with watercolour. Because the pan pastel's it's such an unusual medium to work with. Super fine pastels, pigment, and it just goes on so nicely and translucently. So yeah, just a small picture. This is an A4 sheet. I normally work in A2 size, and I'm going to skip quite quickly through this picture. It took, as I mentioned at the start, a little pop-up, said 9.5 hours to do it. And really just trying to compress the picture down for the sensibilities of and respecting your time, rather than do it like for like. This particular piece is my third portrait of Augusto Rosso, and I spoke to him the day before I recorded this, and he told me out of the series of 3 this was his favourite, that was delightful. It was such a lovely conversation with Augusto. Augusto is one of LinkedIn's top influencers. He's just such a all-round nice guy, and I think that's why he's risen to the top, because people just appreciate his genuineness and how well he interacts with others. I'm just doing part 1 of the painting for this video. Part 1 is Augusto himself. He's looking a bit scary there with all the reds underneath his skin. That they will tone back later on. Pastel's such an amazing medium that you put in these little layers below, and they contribute to the whole later on. The face is never just the simple colours we imagine in our minds. There's always lots of different colours going on. For his eyebrows I'm using blue, and you'll see I've switched to my pastel pencils here. They're Carbothellos for the most part, with a couple of Derwents and just the odd little other pencil pulled in. But the Carbothellos I got as a set. Actually, I can't remember how many were in the set. It might have been 60 something pencils, and they were just they had good reviews on Amazon. and I'm a bit of a sucker for good reviews. Later on, I don't know if it's like this with you, but you always read the good reviews before you buy something, and then after you've bought something, you discover the bad reviews. The carpet alloys are just good standard tools for doing a drawing or a painting with. I use them all the time for detail work. When I started off pastel painting, originally I started with pastel sticks, just classic pastels. And then I started watching YouTube videos of people doing pets, and well, mainly it was just pets and fur or hair demos, and they were always using pencils. And so I thought, oh, well, I must try that, as you do. And I'm not disappointed with the pastel pencils. It's like using very fine brush. I mean, I know it's a pencil, it's not a brush, but you're constantly blending in pastel. And I always think of pastels as painting rather than drawing. Some think of it the other way, but to me it's a painting. So Augusto. So when I first asked Augusto if I could do his portrait, it's like, sure, he's very generous, and absolutely, off you go, David. And I looked through all his selfies that he had posted on LinkedIn, and the more that I looked through his posts, the more I realised that to capture his essence, I'd have to capture what makes him him. And that's family for Augusto. So the first painting I did was just pan pastels, and that was him and his wife. And I really struggled with his poor wife. I just I hadn't seen enough photos of her, and the particular reference one I worked from, the lighting really was difficult to work out her features. And Augusto was very polite about how it turned out, which is good because I'm just a beginner, and I've got feelings as well, and you don't like being crushed, but you want to do your very best and try and represent the person that you're trying to bring to life on the paper or the canvas. And he could recognise himself, but not so much as his wife. And then the next one was his daughters, and that worked out well. But this one with his mum was definitely the favourite for him. And I'll talk more about his mum in part 2 of this video, because he has such a lovely relationship with her, and that's what I'm trying to convey in this image as well. So I've got this. I'm just using a little blending stump there. Oh, now it's gone. I've tried using cotton buds for blending, but on pastel mat they kind of disintegrate, and you get all these little stray, what do you call them? They're like hairs, but the cotton bud just disintegrates because it's a coarse paper. Not as tough as sanded paper, but it's definitely a little bit coarse. And so I've got these lovely, I think they're called Japanese rice paper blending stumps. They're magnificent. Now this green that I'm using, it was kind of like a fluorescent green, and then it goes away again. I'm trying to bring in the colours of the background, the garden that they're in, would have been reflecting into his face as well. Her face is never just pink or brown or other shades. It's a mixture of many colours, and I want to pull in as many as possible. Always using blues and a little bit of, I think there might be a French grey I've got there. on the beard and pulling through the skin as well on his chin. In all my works, I'm not trying to be photorealistic or hyper-realistic. I really admire people who can do that, have got the patience to do that. It's fantastic work. That style, while incredibly clever, just doesn't sing to my heart. It's a bit like a lot of AI generated art, or at least that's how I feel about AI generated art. It's clever, but it just doesn't talk to my soul. There's a lot of AI generated content around now. Businesses are using it to save time in design work, even in writing content for their blogs. You just don't know what's actually human and what isn't now. And where I hang out on LinkedIn in the art discussions, it's quite polarizing. Those who've fallen in love with it and those who really don't like it. I just think of it, when they put through someone else's art and say that it's their own, it's just got minor changes with the AI. Well, it's just like forgeries. And counterfeit art's been with us since forever. But just as I prefer the flavours and the love that goes into a home-cooked meal versus a heat and eat out the microwave, when it comes to content, I myself prefer the effort a human makes in being creative, rather than reading or viewing something created by a machine or software. I've wondered if art will somehow die a little bit as more people just upload their photos and get them repurposed as AI stylized pictures. I mean, Augusto could do that. He could take this photo, just run it through one of the AI art generators, and just say, oh, give it to me in the style of Van Gogh or Monet. And yep, I just don't think it would capture his personality the same way. Everything else just looks a little plastic to me when it comes out. And creativity, it just involves more risks. And you're not quite sure how things are going to work out. I suppose when you get really good, then even people who are really good. I read a book by an artist, a watercolorist, and her work just blew me away. It was amazing. But she said, she was still throwing out, what was it? 4 out of 10 pictures. Maybe it was a bit more than that. But she would just throw stuff away. That didn't work. Out it goes. So, I think creativity, personal creativity is still very important as part of the human experience. So I'm working on Augusto's shoot again here. And when I switch to pan pastels, I'm using violets. We've got a violet tint, violet, and then the dark shade. And my whole demeanour changed when I got back on the pan pastels. When I was using the pencils, everything was tight. I find myself trying to make it as real as I can, and that starts annoying me. But painting with the pan pastels, what an experience. Your shoulders loosen up and you just feel that energy flowing. If you're into pastels and you haven't tried them, I just so recommend them. Or if you're new to pastel painting, well, just give them a go. They're budget friendly. We're just coming to the end of this particular picture, and just doing the final few strokes, and I think we're nearly done. And then we're going to be on to Mum next. So I hope you're gonna come back and see me get terrified as I attempt to draw his mum. Eventually it turns out, because Augusto said it did. So thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to give me a coffee, there's a link below. I really enjoyed having your company. See you next time.